Survivor specialists Alexa and Robert are back. This is the
Ooh.
first time I've ever led a podcast. This is the first time one of us has done it without Phil. So please bear with us. But luckily, there is plenty to talk about. This was a
Absolutely.
crazy merge. We probably, because we have Robert on, we'll probably be talking about Rick Devens for about 80% of this podcast.
85.
But 85, if you round up, it's basically the whole thing. But yeah, we're super excited to talk about this. A lot of like controversial, like not moves, but a lot of controversial twists. And we finally saw what happened with the Edge of Extinction. But first and foremost, Robert, tell us how you feel about Rick.
Okay.
Give us your spiel.
So,
you have the floor.
After all the commotion I made about Mr. Rick Devens in the Bootlist episode, I was heartbroken to see him go out as early as he did. But I had faith. I immediately texted Alexa and Phil and said, $25 bet for whoever wants to. $25 bet that Rick will come in, and I am $25 richer.
I don't bet very often, so I really should not. I took Robert up on that bet, and I should. I'll be Venmoing you right after this.
Oh yeah, it was a glorious moment being from, or not from, but in Blacksburg right now. Hometown hero.
Are people just like whooping it up in the streets right now? Like, it's basically like you won the World Series.
Yeah, basically. I did actually see like a sign on campus, like one of those like those like politician signs. It was one of those, but it was like Rick Devens, Edge of Extinction.
Like Devens right 2020.
Yeah, something like that. It was great.
So separately, I have a friend who's a huge fan of Tony Kornheiser, and Tony Kornheiser is a huge fan of Rick Devens also.
Oh, wow.
And so on his podcast, he's been talking about Rick, and that's like a sports oriented podcast. So everyone's talking about Rick.
Talking about Rick.
That was pretty crazy. I didn't get to talk to you ahead of this episode, but going into the merge, just only seeing the little tidbit of a teaser that we saw, who did you think was going to come back in? Other than just the divine intervention that told you that Rick was coming.
Other than like, my unbridled faith for Rick. I thought, I actually still think that Rick would have gotten back in because I knew that Chris was going to get the knots. I thought that would be enough of a hindrance to prevent him from coming back in. I didn't think Keith would be that big of a threat, or Reem. Aubrey, like, has historically not been very good at challenges, so she's been like proven not the best. So I thought that's why it wouldn't be the best for her. And then I don't know, Wendy. I mean, they were all losing challenges at some point, right? Wendy was doing good though. She was just like, she's just like, oh, I'm about to win, haha, and then dropped it at the last second. But I still thought Rick had a really good chance to win.
Yeah, I think Phil and I both were pretty convinced that Chris was going to win. And then as soon as, even with the knots, I think in my head, I had it that it was going to be like 5 knots. I don't know what arbitrary number I had in my head, but I was like, oh, if you know how to untie knots, like this will take 30 seconds. But as soon as Jeff said 30 knots and you saw the like stack of them, I was like, okay, Chris is definitely a little screwed here. But it was a great challenge. I was expecting one person to kind of blow it out of the water.
Right, even with that, like, Chris still almost got it, which is crazy.
Yeah, we had Wendy inches away from winning. We had Chris inches away from winning. Aubrey had a lead for a little bit. I feel like everyone, by the time it like got to the end with that like snake pulley thing, for lack of a better term, it looked like anybody could have won that. Right. So when they were teasing Rick, and they kept the music suspenseful too. They weren't playing like the hero music just yet.
Yeah.
So I thought he very well could have fallen too.
That was a beast of a challenge too. Like, either the door with the lock thing, like that's usually an entire challenge. And then the snake, like whatever this thing is, that's also usually an entire challenge. And they're just like, let's put them together and make it like really difficult. So
yeah, and while like running up that ramp and then crawling across the mesh.
Yeah.
So I mean, they had to earn it. That was like a damn good challenge. But that stick the weak pull through the jail is like, that one looks awful. That looks so difficult. And every single time, no matter how tight the knots are, it always looks like it's going to flop over. So,
and Keith barely, I don't know how he got his key that time because it was like falling apart as he was sticking the thing out. Oh my God, that was very stressful, but I'm glad he got it.
Yeah, that was something. And even just like leading into that, and we'd seen this teaser a bunch because they'd shown this, I think, leading into the episode and just in the past week. But you hear Kelly, she's like, I freaking knew it. And this whole group all had a bunch of different reactions. I think as soon as Jeff said living on the edge of extinction, everyone everyone had that like head exploding emoji pop up. And Kelly, it seemed like people had been not figuring it out, but somewhat aware, because there's probably a lot of downtime on Survivor, and you're seeing Edge, you're seeing Extinction. They've done something like this similarly before. So
yeah, well, I've seen that yeah, you have so much time to think about like what the twist could be. So you do eventually think of the right answer, but if you also think of 400 wrong answers, you're not going to be able to like figure out which one is the actual twist. So
yeah, exactly. And Jeff teased it so well because he said all these people had a chance. So then they're thinking, okay, now this is over. And then he says, oh, by the way, everyone voted out moving forward will have a chance to go on. And you see the people who lost the re-entry challenge are like, oh crap, now I'm going home. And then Jeff like interviews them and they're crying and it's super emotional. And then he says, you guys can go back. So that was like, I think it was 16 minutes before that first commercial cut. That was just like an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, that was a wild ride that the Survivor gods were keeping us on, and I'd be happy to go through that again. It was fantastic television. It was very emotional, and you went through each person of like, what does this journey mean to you and all that. And it's like the classic Survivor stuff, but it was so good.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And I loved everyone cheering for the challenge because there was like nervous laughter when Rick won, and they were like, I think this is entertaining, but I don't like this. It was just really well done and I know that people can say what they will about the twist. And to be fair, I don't know how I feel about this twist, but that like first pod of television was overall really well done and really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, I think like the twist from a gameplay standpoint may not be like pure Survivor or anything, but if I'm enjoying it, which I am, I'm okay with it.
To be fair, I'm okay. Yeah. I am enjoying this.
I'm
if anyone's listening,
enjoying it. Yeah.
So we cut to commercial and we get back, and this might be like the most mind-boggling part of this episode to me. They go back to the edge of extinction. I keep calling it extinction out. They go back to the edge of extinction, and immediately Keith and Wendy are communally pulling up the mast. What do you think about this?
I'm surprised. I originally thought that because it was like kind of zoomed out, I thought it was Reem and Keith because they had been there for so long, and they'd had like the longest journey through the edge of extinction. But I'm surprised that Wendy did it because she wasn't there for that long, right? She was only there for like a day or something, I think.
Yeah, she mentioned that. She was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of fine with it because I haven't been there too long." I think, gosh, I feel so much better at the timeline than I am, but it couldn't have been more than 3 days. I think it's 3 days maximum.
Yeah, I think the argument that they had was like, I have nothing else to prove. Like I've given it my all. If I were to go back and compete in another challenge, like if I were to wait these like, I don't know what day it was, like 20 more days for like another chance to re-enter the game, I would probably still lose. So there's no reason to. Like I know what's at the end of the tunnel of the edge of extinction. I don't need to make that journey again.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was interesting, at least from Wendy's perspective, just because she did pretty well in that challenge. And if the final next whatever challenge is going to be similar, you would think that she had a shot in it.
I mean, maybe she wasn't thinking like, oh, I did well. Maybe she was thinking I only did well because of a fluke or something. Like this is the only. It's like the Christian thing where it's like this is my one strength or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I wanted to bring up that I forgot to bring up earlier, they really focused on Wendy a lot, and forgive me, I don't know much about like the correct terminology when speaking about Tourette's, but they were focusing on, I guess her tics would be the word, pretty often, and I thought that was really cool, like how she was like
the challenge.
Yeah, during the challenge, like she was still so zoned in and like totally channeling it. And I thought that was really cool. One, that they showed that, and two, that they showed her like continuing to succeed with it.
It's like I'm overcoming these, like it's not even I don't even know if like overcome is like a good enough word. It was just like, oh yeah, like I don't even. It's not a challenge to me anymore. I've lived with it. It's who I am. I don't need to overcome anything. It's just me.
Yeah, and I'm glad they highlighted that. Instead, I mean, I was gonna say instead of the chickens, but we got some chicken content
We
too.
did.
But yeah, I was pretty surprised by that with Wendy and Keith. Really good for Reem. Well, one, we need, a bridge troll for all of the continued entrance onto the edge of extinction. Obviously, Aubrey's going to say, obviously, Chris is going to say. Reem, people can say what they think about her. I'm loving Reem. And I know you were a huge fan of her. We haven't really talked. Let's see what you have to say.
We'll get to this later, but when Joe got voted out and it cuts over to Reem, she's like, lame. So good.
This sucks.
So funny. Or when Probst was calling her out during the challenge, she's like, thanks, Jeff.
Screw you, Jeff. Yeah, there needs to be some like kind of drinking game surrounded around her, say, like dropping dude, like so many times she says that. It's hilarious.
Absolutely.
We'll get to tribal council later, but she was unbelievable. It was really good to see, like, they spent a lot of time talking to Aubrey, and obviously Aubrey was going to go, and she was the one who had like the clear most emotion out of it. So, or everyone did, obviously, but that was really cool. So we'll get to like what the deal with the jury is later, but in terms of in terms of the bootless game, I don't really know what to do. But at the moment, I'm going to consult with Phil. I think I'm going to put Keith as the first person to go home and Wendy as the second. And the only reason I'm putting Keith over Wendy is because Keith was voted out before Wendy. Okay. Not sure what anyone's take on that is. I know we got a lot of flack for how we did the bootless game. So TBD, we'll get to you guys on what happened.
If like, I can't imagine that makes a huge difference on someone's. I mean, we'll check. We're not just going to blindly assume that that's not going to affect anything, but it's like, 1 point or something. Mm-hmm. So,
and also last point, Jeff said, quote, Chris got his balls free, and someone, I think Kelly said, Wonderboy got his balls back. So that's needed to be brought up.
Who had the episode title?
Unfortunately not. I thought you said, was that the episode title?
Oh yeah, no.
That would have been unbelievable. So the episode title was There's Always a Twist, which is what someone said when the group was walking in. I was going to ask you, do you know who said it? It sounded like Joe, but it was a guy. That's all I know.
Oh, geez. We have to go do audio analysis on this.
Yeah, that's with all of the free time that we have.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows who said it, tweet at us or post in the live chat. I can see the live chat again because I'm on a computer. So anyways, just let us know what you guys think. So we get to the beach, and throughout this whole episode, Kelly is our narrator. She's the one saying, I'm freaked out about Rick. I'm freaked out about Joe. I have my idol. Lauren's got her idol. And she's kind of going a bunch of different ways. And we see her and Rick, Rick's like, I'm super screwed. I don't want to be with the Lesu people anymore. I, to be honest, thought that they were going to try to bring him back only because that vote out was so, I don't really know what the right word is, but they didn't want to vote him out.
Yeah. And I was so surprised that Rick was like, how betrayed Rick felt, because it did seem like just we have to, like, we've lost so many tribal councils. If we could not vote out anyone, we could, like, that's what we would do. But it's just, he was like very heartbroken by that. So
yeah, and that hopefully we'll get a chance to hear from him at some point about this. But I have to assume it has, at the end of the day, when you're voted out of Survivor by someone who you think is your ally, that's not going to be great, because it was between Rick and Lauren, I think, who in that vote. So obviously he's going to feel betrayed there, and then he's stewing on the edge of extinction with all of the other people that they betrayed. So there's probably enough just like conversation surrounding the anger towards them, and it's going to be hard to not like get sucked into that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just like I do hate those people. You're right, Reem. Good. That's a good point.
Good point, Reem. Yeah, they've been bugging me too, even when I voted you out with them. So that, and then we see Kelly talking to Joe, and this was something that Phil and I were unsure of going into this. Are they going to work together? Do they even want to work together? Because there was they did, not only did they play together in Cambodia, but there was enough of a relationship there where I thought they were going to work together. So she said that she was kind of nervous about him, and he said that he's nervous about all the commas, which is something that I wasn't aware that he was aware of, that, because he said, oh yeah, like I'm trusting them. But that shows the awareness that like he knew he felt uncomfortable, which boggles my mind
that he was just painting the flag, right? He's like, yeah, I'm kind of worried about them, but that's fine, whatever.
That was incredibly surprising. I hope that merge flag turned out really good, and I hope we get to see it. Because
I want to know why they chose Vata as the name. You know,
what was the name? Mata?
Vata, V-A-T-A.
Oh, Vata. Yeah, that doesn't have either of their like letters in it.
Yeah, which is great because I don't like the portmanteau. I mean, I guess Fijian words is like another trope that's like getting kind of overused, but Vata's kind of cool.
A lot of them, a lot of the tribe names sound so similar, like from the past, 5 or 6 seasons. They all sound pretty similar. So yeah, hopefully that flag turned out good. Or someone's gonna have to hop in and finish it because Joe's done. But when I think Ron comes over to Joe, because Joe's just like living his best life painting, and Ron's like, hey, what's your move? What do you think? And Joe like tells him, he's like, oh yeah, go tell that crew over there that's walking away from me to not vote for me. That I would like wanted to like shake my computer. I thought that was crazy.
It's like, why don't you go do that, Joe? Like I get that like laying low might be a good tactic, but if you are at the point where you've lost immunity, and if you're Joey Amazing who gets voted out when he loses immunity, you might want to like be more proactive about stuff.
And I get him. I understand him not wanting to highlight his threat level, and that's something that I guess is just a chicken and egg thing at this point, because he comes in as a threat anyways, because he's a returnee and he's Joe, and then he wins every single challenge going into it, and doesn't really have the opportunity to not seem like a challenge threat, and doesn't have the opportunity to really strategize because 1, no one wants to, and 2, he never went to any tribal councils to prove himself. But I think that's why he was maybe like overcompensating by like with his threat level by trying to just seem calm and uninvolved. But I think that is completely what backfired on him.
Yeah, I guess if the logic is I'm such a physical threat, I don't want to seem like a strategic or social threat at all. I guess that makes sense, like in theory. But if that's happened 2 or 3 times now and he gets voted out, I don't think it's the best strategy.
Yeah, and Phil will be able to run this number better than I could, but he's gone home at like he's only been able to be voted out in like, let's say 7 tribal councils, and he's gone home in 3 of them. So every time he has the chance to go home, he's probably going to go home.
Yeah.
They did a pretty good job of like making it between Kelly and Joe. I had a feeling that Rick wasn't going to go. But before we get into how this vote came together, let's go back to your boy Rick. Let's talk about this idol. What do you think?
In terms of like how we played it, or just everything, or the twist in general?
Let's start with the twist. Let's start with the twist. So he gets this idol in his bag, which is the half and half idol. So he gets an idol that's broken in 2, and he has to give half of this to someone, and it won't have power until the next tribal, assuming he survives. So that's enough like collateral to say, hey, I trust someone, but it doesn't give him the full safety of having immunity. And there was uncertainty on our end if he was going to come in with immunity like they did in Pearl Islands, or if he was going to come in completely blank and possibly get voted out. So from a twist perspective, what do you think about this?
I think it's a good way to like give him the safety of, hey, just you're not going to get voted out because you made it back, but without the blunt force of like pure immunity. It makes him work for it. It still leaves him vulnerable. And it's something that's a little bit more nuanced than just like a flat, like, yeah, you're safe, don't worry. I'm assuming that once he, like, after this tribal council is passed and he gets, like, I'm assuming he gets the other half of the idol back, right? Not that they like, haha, just kidding, David gets the idol or anything.
I would assume so.
Right.
I think that's the point, to like give it to someone you trust. So then it's like, oh no, like come back. That's going to be ours, but mine.
Right. That felt a little bit weird because like what if hypothetically you're at a point where you don't have any like standing relationships with anyone in the tribe, and then you're just like, hey, you're the person that I like distrust the least. Here's half of this idol. I guess that's the fallback for if someone that comes back that no one likes, instead of just giving them immunity, you are still able to vote them out. But if they are worthy enough or something of being able to come back, then they'll be able to get that reward of immunity.
For those of you listening on iTunes, Robert did quotes around worthy enough.
Yes. Sorry, I just went on a game theory rant right there. So
no, that's good. That's actually super helpful. I know you have there's currently a game night going on.
Yes, there is a game night going on in my apartment that I am hosting without me.
You're doing a really good job.
Yeah. I mean, they'll figure it out. They're college students.
They're college students who participate in game theory. So there's clear that something's going right here. I'm not sure where I stand on it. I like that, and I'm about to completely contradict myself here. I like that it's half and half, because if he gets straight immunity, I know why people would have a problem with it, but I also get why they would do that, so he can get footing back in the game. And with this, he has to create a relationship rather than just blindly have immunity. What I like that he gave it to David, and I figured he was going to be the one to give it to David. But the thought that I had was, tell David about this. So David's in the loop, and their relationship seems to completely transcend the game. Watching them is like watching me talk to my friends. It feels so normal and so natural, and it feels like they were friends long before this. So I feel like David would have had the understanding if Rick was like, I'm going to give my half to someone on comma to win that relationship over, but David's aware of it. But then, now that I'm talking out loud, someone in comma is now aware of this idol. It's going to happen in the future. Because the future part is what I'm feeling funky about, because now Rick has an idol.
Right. Yeah. I think that would be like the same reason that you don't let someone, like if you see someone going off and like looking for an idol, that you follow them. Like if you can prevent someone from getting an idol, you do. Mm-hmm. And so if you tell someone, like it's different from like giving Aubrey the advantage, because that's instantly creating trust. But this is like, hey, we're creating trust, but like I'm still not powerful yet. Don't vote me out, please. Thanks.
What do you here? Finish your thought, and then I'm going to ask you.
I also think that Rick, just coming back from Edge of Extinction, is probably like very desperate to not get immediately voted out. So maybe he's not in the right headspace of being able to, think like of trying to play like risky strategic, and it wants to just play safe.
Yeah, and especially at the merge, you don't want to be like the star of the show. And I was getting somewhat nervous for Julie and Ron, because they were the stars of tonight. They were the ones who were kind of going at it between, do we get rid of Kelly and do we get rid of Joe? But just quickly going back to Rick, what were your thoughts on Rick being able to give Aubrey that advantage that then went unused?
I thought it was fine. It kind of seems like Survivor is, or like CBS is just like, oh, let's just throw some advantages in because it might be fun later.
I feel like this is going to become a very advantage-heavy season, for better or for worse.
Yeah, I'm glad that it didn't really like amount to anything. It could have created tension, but it is just like, here's so many advantages, But it is. I do think that the idea of like you're on Edge of Extinction and here are like some advantages like popping out, like I think that's like pretty cool. It kind of seems like it's a better done version of Ghost Island.
Yeah, which is like, it's just crazy.
Like, here's your advantage. It's like, oh, you have to figure out this puzzle and other people are going to be there. And then like, it may not be useful, as opposed to here's your idol. So
yeah, instead of just here's your free idol. So yeah, that's a good point. I think what I was unsure about is like Rick now gets an idol that he can probably use until the final 5, but this is giving him better footing and will probably, what am I trying to say here? Like this will probably get him more relationships and be able to actually become a player again, instead of just like being a body to vote at something.
I mean, I remember once, it might have been on this podcast, Adam Klein saying that like if you are in the majority, if you're in the vote at the merge in the majority, like you have a very good chance of winning. So
Adam Klein did say that. I don't know if that was on our podcast, but yeah, it was totally on our podcast.
He said it somewhere.
Way before I was here.
yeah. So if that's your goal, is to just make it in the majority, like you don't need to, be driving the conversation, and you just need to lay back.
Mm-hmm. So with that, Julie comes up to Rick and she's like, hey, you're totally safe. I can't give you many details, but you're going to be good and we'll tell you who to vote for. We obviously ended up not seeing that conversation for, I guess, like suspense purposes, but Rick and David did not vote correctly. No one voted correctly except for the -6. And I don't know exactly how the voting breakout worked. I wrote down a few of the names, but they're probably wrong. But Rick and David ended up being wrong. And so
who did they vote for?
Allegedly, they voted for Kelly, which makes sense because the last time we heard from them, Julie wanted Kelly out. So that makes sense. And then I think the Joe thing, that was just like, we have 6, we have enough. We don't need to tell anybody else. That's my thought.
Yeah. Victoria tweeted out 15 minutes ago, oh yeah, 6 out of 13 is definitely a majority, right? But also it
That's
worked.
my kind of math.
Really funny.
Yeah, it worked. It was really well done. And I really wasn't sure where they were going to go with that, but Victoria had a very, very subtle but funny moment. I think Eric and Gavin are they're chatting while everyone is hunting for a chicken, and they're having this free for all open conversation about who they're voting for. So Eric and Gavin are like, oh yeah, we're chit-chatting. Victoria walks by and says, what are you guys up to? And Eric's like, oh yeah, we're making sure nothing's changed. And she goes, awesome, everything's changed. We're voting for Joe. It was like, oh crap, okay, well that's happening.
That was a very good moment.
Yeah, she's super funny and very subtle, snarky humor. It's fantastic. But that group of 6, they're clearly very tight knit because there was a lot of back and forth on who they could have voted for. There were 3 people. It was Rick, Wentworth, and Joe. And they were all like, we all have great arguments and I totally understand all of them and we're one big happy family. So you don't usually see that. You usually see the egos come up and say no, I need to get rid of Joe or I need to get rid of Wentworth. But I think they really understood the need for cohesion on this first vote. And really the only person who they quote unquote scorned is Aurora, but Aurora never really seems to be a part of that group anyways. And now the problem is they have the wrath of 2 idols going up against them and they don't know that.
3 now that Rick and...
Oh gosh, 3.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah, that's crazy. They don't even know. Also, I liked the little infographic that they said where it was Kelly is 1 immunity idol. Did you notice that in the lower third?
No, I completely missed that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it was whenever Kelly was on screen, it would say Kelly and then whatever is below that, and then it 1 immunity idol appeared up right next to it.
Oh, so I completely missed that.
Yeah, it was a little reminder. And then Rick next to his name had half an immunity idol, which is funny.
And then everybody else negative immunity idols.
Yeah.
I actually really I kind of like that because I forget
there was something on Reddit about this person tweeted at Jeff Probst and was like, hey, can you do this? And Jeff was like, yeah, sure, why not? So
wow, oh my gosh, that worked. Holy crap.
It's very nice. It's a very good
so
reminder.
now I'm just envisioning we go 10 seasons from now, we're on season 50 and it's Alexa Pappas, Bedford, Massachusetts, 2 idols, 7 votes against her, 19 confessionals. It's a whole sabermetric stat chart.
Yeah. That'd be great.
It's becoming
a baseball person anymore. It's one of those they do in the news stations or the sports network where they just flash up the entire stats page and you have to read it really fast and then it goes away and you forget everything.
That's exactly what it's going to be. And then there's going to be an EDGIC chart and everyone's going to lose their mind over it.
Yeah. Speaking of EDGIC related stuff, it's crazy how, because we were thinking oh, comma, they aren't getting much airtime because they're not going to tribal council, but they did go to tribal council and we still barely heard it from Aurora. We barely heard from Julia.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of people we still didn't get much from.
Yeah, I watch it. I don't have a TV, so I was watching it on my computer and my stream glitched for a second, from from the commercial break leading into the feast, and I caught the end of Julia's confessional, but I didn't know what she ended up saying. I don't think Aurora talked tonight. Like,
No, she did not.
Aurora's our new Julia. She is just completely like they're not giving us anything from her. We're getting like reaction shots out of her, and we're getting like her talking. She's just not talking to us. So for a while, like that could have been quote unquote justified with those two, and they were winning all the time, they never had to vote, they weren't the center of the story. But now I mean Aurora is probably in a really tough place now, and Julia's in this majority with from what it seems like just stronger people with stronger opinions, maybe because it seemed like it was Julie and Ron who were the ones making the decisions.
Yeah, I mean at some point they have to choose who is coming up with the storyline. So I guess it makes sense, but it's nice to have an edit that's well-rounded. So
yeah, exactly. And we're not gonna. I mean, last season's was unbelievable. And when you have a Navidi, Malolo, not Leslie, what were they, Manu kind of thing going, like I get it for a bit, but I don't know. I'm sure like their story is coming. I just don't know when. Though there's only been 7 people voted out. As soon as Jeff said that, I was like, wow, it's early.
It is very early.
Yeah. But before we get to Tribal Council, let's talk about this immunity challenge. This is one that I really like because maybe I feel like I could possibly almost be good at it. It's like the balancing with that super long pole. And that wind looks pretty crazy. I don't know what that idol was that was sitting on it. It looked like something from a nativity scene that was like found in my basement. Normally they put like, I don't know, some more like Fijian looking idol on it. But that was, I had Julie in my prop bet. I had Julie lasting an hour in a challenge, but I didn't have her winning an immunity. So as soon as Jeff said we're at 40 minutes, when it was Julie, Lauren, and Joe, I was pumped. And it must not have lasted an hour because they didn't tell us. But Julie rocked that. Julie had been sitting out of a lot of challenges, and I think there was this assumption that she was weak. But I remember in the preseason, I was like, I think Julie's going to rock these kind of challenges. Julie would really excel in immunities, and that really showed tonight.
Yeah, no, she was rock solid. There was the comment David had where it's like, Julie's pretty buff.
And they cut like a
hand over her, and it was like, wow, Julie is really buff. Whoa.
Yeah, like, and she's sitting next to Joe, and they like both just like tanks. It was great.
It out, yeah.
But yeah, I mean that was kind of like your standard first individual immunity challenge. I think it was Ron who fell like instantaneously. I don't know how long that pole is, but just balancing with that wind, like that's not meant to last long.
Yeah, it doesn't look easy. So sense. I could also see myself just like starting it up and then dropping it. So
just immediately dropping it. And I would like balance it on my head because I have no upper arm strength. So as soon as my arms get tired, like Kelly, where she was like, my arms do not exist anymore.
Yeah, they're completely numb. So.
Yeah, completely numb. Lauren did really well. I'm curious to see where this whole like Lauren is very fatigued storyline is going to go, because we have someone falling in an immunity challenge next week.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll get evacuated because I feel like they've done this once this season before with Wendy's ankle. As long as they don't get hit on the head by whatever they're trying to balance, I feel like they might be okay. But what do you think about what's going on there?
Geez, I don't know. We know Victoria's not hurt because it like panned over to her asking what's going on, but
oh yeah, but while also not moving.
Yeah, she's like, I still have to win, but like, is there anyone hurt? I don't like it when there's like an injury that causes someone to leave the season. I don't. I don't know. I don't know what to think. Maybe it would be unfortunate if it was like Julia or Aurora, and like that's how they go out, and it's just like, it's the reason we're not giving them airtime is because they're not doing anything, or because they got injured and had to be medevaced out. But I hope not.
Yeah, I don't really know. I clearly don't know what the stats are on this, but I don't like when people who are medically evacuated get bad edits, because you would think it would be like more emotional for the viewer if it was someone that they loved get medically evacuated.
Right. Maybe it is. What if what if Rick gets medically evacuated?
I
Wouldn't that be unfortunate?
saw you realize that before it came out of your mouth.
Yeah,
So
wouldn't that be sad? I would cry. I would cry
That-
on podcast. So
that
anyone watching on
we will
YouTube,
bring you on, like you will hop on just to show the tears, and then we'll kick you back on.
Yeah, like my 3 minutes of fame.
Yeah, that literally 3 minutes. If you're crying for 3 minutes about that, that's we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
So Julie wins the immunity challenge. For anybody who had Julie winning individual immunity in your prop bet, that did happen. And she's someone who in the preseason they definitely propped up that she was a super fan, and you see her like have that moment. Like she was like my husband and my kids are going to see this and it's going to be so exciting, and she just like doubles over in tears like Robert will when Rick will inevitably injure himself in the challenge.
Yeah.
Really cool moment though.
Oh, I mean, I think anyone that wants to be on Survivor could like imagine themselves in that position of like, oh man, I would be so happy, and like such happy tears would come down from that.
Yeah, and
we're just talking about me crying in different ways now.
Now it's but happy tears right now. Yeah. I don't know how many we have sad tears and happy tears. I don't know how much further we can go with this.
Yeah, neutral tears.
Unemotional tears. Yeah. But we are seeing that more. I remember, I think it was Allison who won the first immunity challenge, and she said the same thing. She's like, I can't wait to go home and for my family to watch this, because that's kind of the one thing. At least when I grew up watching Survivor with my family, we would compare how we would do in immunity challenges, and 99 times out of 100, I was like, I would suck at this, and like that's what we were always talking about during the commercial break. So to be able to actually be the person to do that, and then for Julie to be sitting with her family tonight watching it, like I can't even compare anything that's happened in my life to that. So that must be a really cool experience. So Julie has the greatest experience of her entire life, and then kicks it into gear. Like she wanted this, and she wanted this Kelly move. And she even said, she's like, I want to play. I want this to be my move. I got to get my butt in gear. And it's really good that she had that immunity necklace, because I think when you're the person who wants to take charge during the merge, during that first merge vote, there's a huge target on your back. And I think what was smart with Victoria is she had this huge move last week and took a big backseat tonight. I think that was really good for her.
Yeah, I agree. You don't want to like just constantly be trying to make moves, because people are going to like eventually notice you and then want to get you out because they don't want to be on the other end of that. So
yeah, exactly. And so Julie goes to the Comma Girls and she says, we're going to tell, like, let me get this right. Tell Wentworth that they're splitting Rick. I feel like that note is wrong, but there was an idea of we're going to split Rick. We're going to go for Wentworth, but we're going to tell Rick, but we're not going to tell Rick who we're going for until the very end. And then it just becomes Joe. So do you think in the long run, do you think this is the right move? Because the balance was, do you get rid of a guy who's probably going to vote with us, but we might not have a chance to vote out for a really long time? Or do we get rid of Kelly, who's known for playing really well from the bottom? As she said today, she's like, this is always how I play. Likely has an idol, and then turns out to actually have an idol, and is probably going against you. What do you think of the move tonight?
You kind of stacked the evidence in one person's favor there. I think I get the fear of what if Joe wins every single immunity, but I think at this point, like, he hasn't won every single immunity because he hasn't won the game doing that. Mm-hmm. I do think you just take out Wentworth, and I don't know what magic Wentworth pulled to just don't vote for me again, and like live and not have to use her idol, even though she didn't know of the plan to not get out Rick. But that was stuff, whatever she has.
Balls of steel. Like, yeah, and they always do this. I don't know if it's actually happened in the moment, but you see her kind of like stretch, and she's like, I'm not going to do it. And Lauren is like, what the hell are you doing? Not playing this.
Yeah, that's insane.
So like post game, and this is a weird season because we don't get any exit press. We have like no idea what happens until like in the weeds until after the season, presumably.
I mean, we might get stuff from Keith and Wendy.
Oh yes, we probably will now. So like when/if Kelly goes home, I'm really curious to see what kind of conversations there were, because clearly they weren't many, because Kelly voted allegedly for Rick. So she still thought that was the plan. So this still was just like that (6) saying, screw everyone else, we're going to get rid of Joe. And I think they probably could have gotten the original mono group to get behind that, because I think everyone can get behind getting rid of Joe. So I'm curious to see why they didn't feel it was necessary to add them, but they probably still, like Ron said, they want to keep this pretty black and white. Ron is super Navidi strong.
Oh,
Ron
no.
is super calm and strong. That was such a bad slip.
I just like, I don't know why, like I get wanting to keep things under wraps, but if you have 6 votes and there are 13 people in the game, like why are you risking? I mean, I guess maybe they thought that they weren't the target or something, and like if Rick goes home, like whatever, it's not one of us. But still, like why do you not try to get that one extra person? Like why do you not try to bring Rick in or bring David in?
And I think Rick's the one, because Julie and Victoria Tribal was like, I think it's so evil that they would want to get rid of Rick. And Julie's like, they're all throwing you under the bus. Like they were grooming him, and he was totally into it. So he's like the main loss, because he was ready to move over with them. And like you said, they don't have a majority. They're even now. They could have a majority if this mono group is still splintered, but Aurora's probably pretty scorned. So she'll probably flip over to the other side.
I mean, if Rick is still as like anti old Manu or old Lesu, whoever as he was,
I know. Yeah.
it's just so many swaps. Then like maybe he's still willing to work with them, and I think that he said he's like able to make bonds, and I think they've showed that. But if I'm assuming that if Julie has gone to him before, Julie will go to him again. So I think that that avenue isn't completely closed off.
Yeah, and I think Rick is probably, for this twist, I'm not wording this appropriately. Like, look, Rick is the person who I think coming back in out of that whole group of people on Extinction Island, he is the one who will gel the best. I think Reem and Keith would probably get voted out right back. I think Aubrey would probably get voted out again. Chris either would probably win immunity or they would have voted him out. And who am I missing?
Wendy. Did you say
Wendy?
Wendy?
I think they might have voted. They would probably vote Wendy back out too, especially because they were on a chicken hunt. So, which we didn't even get to talk about. But Rick is someone who is very clearly can make really good relationships. And so I think even though he felt super scorned, I think he didn't show it to the Manu group. He wasn't like, I'm over you guys. He was only saying that to Kama. So he still left the door open to work with Manu if Manu wanted to work with him. They just didn't want to. So I'm really curious to see what this quote unquote minority, or just the 6, or just the group that didn't vote for Joe, I'm really curious to see how their chips fall next week, because none of them really collaborated.
Yeah, it was kind of like still on whatever tribal lines like existed. God, it's so complicated. But like, I think it's I don't know what I'm saying. Just take it away. All right,
I'm gonna steal that away from you.
Yeah.
So what I have written down for who voted for who is that the Kama 6 voted for Joe, and I think Aurora, Wardog, and Joe voted for David. Kelly and Lauren voted for Rick, and Rick and David voted for Kelly. Does that sound right? Question
yes.
mark? Sure. I saw Aurora holding up David, so I like wrote that down, and I assumed she and Joe voted together, and everything else kind of fell into place. So let's talk about the jury. So Aubrey, another like controversial. What's the move here?
Yeah.
So Aubrey, Reem, Chris, and Aubrey, they walked them in according to who was voted out. Sit down. They're still smelly, and they are the jury. And you have to assume, like all the people who are still in the game have to assume that Wendy and Keith quit, which still boggles my mind that happened at that point.
Right.
But they're the jury right now. So what I'm unsure of is, were Wendy and Keith not on the jury because of like a cutoff time, or were they not on the jury because they quit?
I think what it is you go to Edge of Extinction, and however many people are on Edge of Extinction, oh God. Okay, so
I know this is weird.
So I was thinking that whoever is on Edge of Extinction will come to the jury, just like up until like however long. If people quit, they will quit down until like, how do I explain this?
I know. is a disaster.
Yeah. So how many people? Let's assume that there's a 12-person. Oh God, three
So
people.
currently there's 4 people on the jury: Reem, Chris, oh my God, Aubrey, and Joe, and there's 12 people left in the game.
Yeah. So I can explain it now. So
I can explain this.
So final 3. Okay. Let's
Okay.
assume a 9-person jury. I don't know if there is or not. This is for example. So 9-person jury, 3 people left in the final 3. That's 12 people. So there's like the final 3, and then there's the 9 people that get voted out before that. So that means that there are 6 spots in an 18-person season for pre-jury. So if you are one of the first 6 people to quit from Edge of Extinction, you are not in the jury. That is my logic. So after 6 people quit from Edge of Extinction and you quit, then you are on the jury. But I don't know what happens if they just get to the end and there's like 10 people and then they have to play a challenge. I don't know how how the losers get determined, like of who is jury and who's not. So
yeah, I think you're right there, because everyone was like, this is going to be a 40-person jury when this first like twist was announced. But that can't be possible. And especially because a lot of people like wouldn't have gotten to see them play. Now it makes sense that, and I think this is the right call to have the people on Edge of Extinction watch, because how will Aubrey,
right?
Yeah, like how would Aubrey vote for a final 3 of Wardog, Kelly, and Lauren when she's never even spoken to them? So that part I get. I think the way that they'll do this is, do the math for me, but let's say there's 10 people left, 10 people on Extinction Island, and they're about to do the final challenge to get back into the game. I think that they'll do it. Like, let's say it was tonight's immunity challenge. Like, if I fall first, I'm pre-jury, which sucks. But like, if you're like the second to last person for your idol to fall, then you make the jury. You know what I mean?
Or what they might do is, so your logic for boot list of Keith got voted out first, so he's 18th. They might do the same thing, where if everyone loses at the final immunity challenge, all of the losers are put into like how they got voted out, and like the bottom people like don't make jury.
Yeah.
Like,
but then is that right?
I mean,
now we're getting like ethical. I know, but that seems now we're getting like way too philosophical about this.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
I don't know. That seems so by that logic, Joe and Reem are, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Like, Joe and Reem are the final 2 in this challenge. But then if Reem, what am I saying here? I don't know. I'm gonna send that back to you. Say something.
Yeah. I think that like Reem, because she was voted out first, if she makes it to the end and she still, and like, let's just say that no one else quits. If she makes it to the end, loses the immunity challenge, she will still not be on the jury because she got voted out first. And they'll prioritize people that got voted out later.
Yeah, I guess I get that. And I guess that's the right call if that's what they end up doing. But man, that would suck if you're Reem, Aubrey, or Chris.
Yeah, and you're like, I made it to day 39 anyways.
Yeah.
But here I am.
Yeah, here I am on a pre-jury trip, maybe. I don't
pre-jury trip. I don't even
know. I don't think that they'll be doing that. Anyways. So yeah, that's gonna be weird, but I'm glad that they have them.
Wait, does that mean that we don't get Ponderosa videos?
I don't think we get Ponderosa videos. No.
I love Ponderosa videos.
I know. I think, yes, someone posted that either on Reddit or someone tweeted that at us, but yeah, we're not getting any Ponderosa. So tonight I just have to troll Reddit instead of watch Joe's Ponderosa. It's going to suck.
Yeah.
No offense to everyone on Reddit. Thank you for informing me about everything I know. I know, yeah, there's no exit press. There's no Ponderosa. The seasons, I guess this is the first time in a while that we've done anything like this with like people getting voted out, not really going home. So I think it's the right call, but it just leads to a lot of speculation.
Yeah. I mean, I was wondering how they were going to handle the whole jury thing, but I didn't think it was going to be this. So
yeah,
definitely threw me off.
Yeah. And it clearly threw the players off too. They were pretty surprised that they were going to be there. And now they know that Aubrey, Chris, and Reem are still there. Not that was going to be a surprise for very long. But it's looking pretty chummy for them. I mean, they've got, chummy's the wrong word, cushy. they've got Joe and Chris hanging out there. So Reem and Aubrey can just hang and get fed.
Yeah, just hang out, have
Yeah.
Joe catch fish for them, Survivor buffet.
But now that they know that, because something that Phil and I had argued about was, Phil was like, they have to play individually. But my point was, they don't have to, because they think they may come back as a tribe. Like, there's no idea what they're going to be doing. Now that it's so clearly individual, I could totally see Chris going like, every man for himself. He's only going to catch the fish for himself. Like, I would get that, and I would totally support that, because
oh yeah, I mean,
only more chance to win or get back in.
I mean, that was like Keith's whole argument of like, hey, I'm just gonna like go off by myself and
screw this. Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, I'm really enjoying like what they're doing with this, with like this editing and stuff. It does seem like, I didn't watch Lost, but if I did, this seems like what watching Lost would feel like.
You can't be a part of this podcast and not watch Lost. We love Lost.
Well, I enjoy Evangeline Lilly on Ant-Man and the Wasp, so
I still need to see that. I've been catching up on my Marvel movies, but that one I haven't seen either neither Ant-Man nor Ant-Man and the Wasp.
We will talk about this
on our Marvel podcast.
On our Marvel which we're starting right now.
Which honestly we could probably do, and like that would take 4 hours. I could talk about that forever. But we digress. So where are we going? Oh, Lost. So what I'm hoping is this becomes a lot more individual, and people are going to start like trying to get others to quit. Like, I could see Chris and Reem just going at it even more than they already have.
They're just like, oh, it's time for my 9 a.m. argument with Reem.
Maybe if I yell at her for 3 hours, she'll go raise that mast over there.
Oh my God. I can't imagine Reem raising the mast. She's in too deep. She's gonna yell at everyone, and I'm so excited for it.
And she's perfect, because she was the first one to get voted out.
Yeah.
Like this happened so perfectly. This was like Jacob Derwin being the first one to go to Ghost Island. It just is perfect. And she's so bitter, and she doesn't even know Joe, and she's probably gonna be bitter towards him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like, hey, I don't like you. You beat me in all the challenges.
Yeah, even though you beat me in a challenge.
Yeah, just one actually.
A challenge that was like 18 days ago at this point.
Right.
So yeah, I can't wait to see like full-fledged Reem, assuming she gets to the end, because she's been there the longest.
I want her to make jury and just destroy everyone at Final Tribal.
It's gonna be so good, assuming that happens. I really hope so. What was I going to say? So I guess kind of the last thing, we saw a bit of a preview. It didn't really give us much. It was Ron saying he's on top, which immediately means he's probably going to go home soon. There's a weird David like segment, and he's just kind of talking to Rick, and he's like, I got to change my pace to get to day 39. And then we have person who has not been named falling over during this challenge.
Yeah, I hope that David and Devens don't have a, whatever day it is, breakup. That'd be pretty unfortunate. I like them as a duo. It seems like that they get each other really well. You know who we didn't hear much from today? Also, because I know he's watching this, Wardog.
Mr. Wardog.
I didn't hear anything.
I've been creeping in the live chat, and he's nowhere to be found. So he is as visible as he was on our TV tonight. We heard I actually don't think we even spoke to him tonight. I think we got a confessional from pretty much everyone except for Wardog and Aubrey, or not
Aurora.
God, Aurora.
Yeah,
I'm losing my mind.
Maybe it's good to have a cool off episode. I don't know about Edgic stuff. It's I don't know.
We talk about confessionals, but once it gets into Edgic, like all those OTTN5 stuff like that's beyond my pay grade. Like,
it's one more CP3 to be in contention. Like,
I don't know what a CP. I just know OTTN is over the top negative. I don't know what a CP3 really is. It's like C3PO. I don't know. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think I'm assuming that Wardog will still be relevant in the rest of the season. I can't imagine, because he has like voted correctly all like the past 5 times or whatever. So
yeah, except for tonight.
Except for today. Yeah, I think he'll still be able to figure it out. So
yeah, I think he'll have his cool down episode, and I'm sure he will be back. I am sure of it.
Yeah.
So let's go into MVP. Who do you think the MVP of tonight is? So for what it's worth, let me tell you. I'm sure you know our fantasy teams already. Yeah. Phil's fantasy team is fully intact, as is mine. Phil has Wardog, Kelly, Lauren, David, and Ron Clark. I have Joe. Oh, rip. Just kidding. Lost my number one pick. I have Julia, Eric, Aurora, and Julie. Vaughn has Gavin, and Carl has Victoria. So if you want to push the MVP to support one of the four of us, you are welcome to, or if you want to be the unbiased person that you are and just vote for who you actually think the MVP is.
I think Ron is the MVP because he was trying to get the vote onto Joe and managed to get him out with a 6-person majority. At least making that plan happen and getting out someone who is inarguably a threat makes him the MVP.
I think it could I think
actually,
Ron,
can I change my vote to be Rick for getting back into the game?
So I was going to say I was going to put up Rick for this. I think Rick won his way back into the game. He voted incorrectly, but he didn't go home. Like he very easily could have been the one to go home. He reconnects with his closest ally. He is going to have an idol that he's going to be able to share with someone who really knows what they're doing with idols. Yeah. And he's a people person. He'll be able to get back into good standing. Not that he's in bad standing, but I think that common group is still somewhat interested. At least Julie's somewhat interested in working with him. I think I was going to put up Rick. I'm surprised.
I'm still I still have to come to terms with the fact that he's back in the game. It's I was mourning for 2 weeks, so I'm back, but
you were crying for 2 weeks.
Yeah. I think the only, other than Rick having a chance at Survivor again, I think that the only mistake Ron made was that he didn't have that 7th vote, which I think is really important going. Not that his enemies or the people that weren't in his alliance were united against him, but it's getting someone out without a majority and just having a plurality is kind of difficult. So I'm going to amend and agree with Rick.
Yeah, I think it could be Rick or Ron. I'm going to put Julie in the ring too, because she won individual immunity. Yeah. And she's kind of the only one we saw who even attempted to reach across the table. She was the one she spoke to Kelly. She spoke to Rick. She didn't end up winning the battle that I'm making up in my head that probably didn't happen of her and Ron of voting for Wentworth versus Joe. Ron quote unquote won that, but I think Julie still at the end of the day got her way, and it's not going to look so much like her move because Ron is making it very clear that he's calm and strong. This is all I want. No one else can talk to me. Julie is kind of tooting that horn, but also still making relationships on the side. So I'm going to put Julie up there too. I think she had a really, really great episode.
Yeah, she did.
And also, I don't know if we actually asked you about this. What are your thoughts on wooden toys?
What? Oh, wooden toys. Oh, I know that.
So for reference, I'm sure that question came out of nowhere. So for reference, Julie is a toy maker and she makes wooden toys. And in the preseason, I found her Etsy page, and everyone should go there and support her because her toys are super cute. And Phil thinks they're freaking terrifying. Phil thinks they look like it's hilarious. And so Julie somehow caught wind of this because maybe she listens to us. Hi, Julie. And now every time we have a guest on the podcast, we ask them what their thoughts are on wooden toys. They're made of non-toxic materials. They're homemade. I think they're super wholesome. I think they're super cute. Phil is absolutely
I just Googled them. These are so cool. What?
Wow. Okay. You are in the yes column. There's a lot of no thank you columns. So
this is so nice.
How did you find that so quickly? Good job.
Just Googled Julie Rosenberg Etsy
toys
and it worked. I guess enough people are looking for it.
So on Julie's stat sheet, when she gets one for her confessionals, it's going to say wooden toy supporters 2.
2?
It's me and you.
Yeah. Well, Phil has no heart, so.
Wow. There it is, everybody.
He would agree with that.
So yeah, he would agree with that. I think Robert's feeling a little scorned because we have a group text between the three of us. And so Phil is currently traveling at the moment. He is not traveling to Fiji. He is still within the country. And he wasn't able to watch tonight because tonight he's in transit. And Robert group texted us when Rick got back in and just screenshotted where I said I would take the bet and circled it. And then Phil just replied with 50 F-bombs. That's an exaggeration, 2. Yeah. And Robert stopped answering, and then we started side texting.
Yeah, so. Well, I mean, I also I felt bad about spoiling a show for someone or something that we all care about. but I did win $25 and Rick's back. So I still think I'm the winner here.
Big night. Robert is actually the MVP of tonight.
I am the MVP. Yeah. Final vote.
No, when Phil and I used to podcast on West Coast time, I would watch the episode on East Coast time and then just like do nothing for 3 hours for waiting for him to watch. And I would text him and be like, hey, since Simone was voted out, where do I put her in the boot list? And he's like, are you kidding me? Like, you just completely blew this episode. So everyone, this has happened to everybody.
Yeah, East Coast time is better anyways. So.
East Coast time is so much better. And this is huge. It's only 10 o'clock. So actually we've hit an hour. This was like a very meaty episode. I think we got to it. I think we got to everything. So just a quick recap for.
Are we doing LVP also? Or?
We don't do LVP anymore, but if you want to toss someone out, it feels like you have an opinion.
No, I was just curious. I missed that part of not doing LVP, but let's.
Yeah, we didn't make a formal announcement because some people still comment with their LVP, but we feel like the rules are kind of arbitrary, which they are for anything that this podcast does, because this is not real. But yeah, we got rid of LVP. But if you have an opinion on someone,
I was curious. I didn't want to not that I am doubting your skills as a podcaster, but I was confused.
Stop.
I'm doubting my skills as a viewer.
Wow, that's really sad.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate.
So when it comes to the bootless game, at the moment, I'm having Keith as the quote unquote first person voted out, Wendy as the second.
I also checked the official Survivor wiki, and whoever runs that put Keith as 18 and Wendy as 17. So
exactly. So that has to be
it's in
It's in
writing.
Bible of Survivor. Yeah, it's in writing on the internet. You have to trust everything you see on the internet. We did this because we're thinking when you're watching the finale, how is it going to be laid out? And I have to imagine that Keith and Wendy are going to be in the top left corner there. So everyone who didn't like our idea can deal with it.
Yeah.
When it comes to prop bet, someone said the episode title. It was a male. So if anybody knows who said that, I think it's Joe. I'm going to go to the Survivor Wiki after this and try to figure it out. We can try to re-listen to it, but it was so quick. So if anybody knows that, please contact us. Wendy and Keith had a confessional in every single episode they were in, because that does count for when you're on Extinction Island. Both of them spoke in every single episode. Julie won individual immunity. Aubrey has lasted 5 days on Extinction Island. And I think that's all I have for prop bet. In terms of the fantasy game, let me pull up our Google Doc. Vaughn, who had Rick on his fantasy team, gets 4 extra points because Rick won his way back. And then Team Carl and Team Vaughn lost a point because they had 2 people. They had Wendy and Keith quitting on Extinction Island. So we'll get to that in our predictions next week. But Robert, before I close this out, any closing words? Anything? You have the floor.
Oh, I should always prepare for this. I never do.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
Rick Devens is the man. He's gonna win. I'm back on the Rick train. Not that I ever left, but
you're actually like conducting the Rick train.
Yeah. If there's anyone in Blacksburg for whenever Rick has a Blacksburg Survivor viewing party, not that I know this, but like I'm assuming he will because he's from there.
Because you tweeted at him asking for one?
Yeah, I did tweet about it. I did tweet at him and I was like, please come to Virginia Tech and
I keep forgetting he doesn't live in Blacksburg. He lives in Georgia.
Yeah, he lives in Georgia, but he's from Blacksburg. So I'm assuming he's gonna come home and have a viewing party. And I'm assuming he will invite the public, in which I will go there. So if there's any viewers in Blacksburg, like, let's hang out. That's really weird to say on a podcast, but that'd be kind of fun.
No, it's kind of weird, but I hope you get recognized. Like I was gonna say, the weirdest thing is when someone recognizes you.
Have you ever been recognized?
A couple of times. There's I don't feel like telling a story, but I've been pointed out like probably 3 or 4 times, all of which I've been at a bar, which I'm sure like isn't my best luck. But there's this one waiter at this restaurant that we go to after work sometimes, and we actually had a super huge group, and we it was we were probably a group of 10 or so, and there was no space in the restaurant, and the back room was just finishing up like a private party, and the guy ran up to me and he was like, "Oh my God, you're Alexa from YouTube," and I was like, "That's not a designation that I'm comfortable with, but sure. And
I mean,
he was,
I am an Alexa that is on YouTube.
so therefore, like that's correct. But I don't like the connotation, especially because my boss is right here. And he was like, yeah, this private party's finishing up. Like, I'll give you guys the back room. And I was like, guys, look what I got. Like hair flipping around, like totally bragging. But it's like really surreal and super weird and super cool. Like it's a really cool community. So take it with you, Robert. Like if anyone in Blacksburg wants to hang, Robert hosts a game night on Wednesday nights that he's actively hosting.
Yeah, like right now.
Yeah. So
if you are in Blacksburg, meet me in McBride 113 tomorrow at 3:15 p.m.
I don't know what that is, but I hope that's not actually your address.
No, it's a classroom.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So.
I also knew that, definitely. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna now close this out because that is my job as the closer outer and not the host. So this is weird. But anyways, thank you, Robert, for coming on. We always love having you. I know you filled in for me in October when I was traveling, and now you're filling in for Phil, which I really should have done a Phil pun as soon as I said that.
I know.
What was I thinking?
Yeah, next time.
Yeah. So next time when one of us is inevitably gone, Robert will be PHILing in. In the meantime, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, keep hitting that subscribe button on YouTube. We are climbing up to 4,600 followers, 4,600 followers quickly. Listen to us on iTunes, subscribe to us on iTunes, and give us 5 stars on iTunes because we're awesome. This weekend, we will be doing our predictions with Bryce, which we're super pumped about. He has been a special guest during our podcast. We were podcasting with Wendell one night, and Bryce was there, and poor Wendell was like trying to get a point out, and Bryce would just like hop in, make some great comment, and then hop back out. And so now we are giving Bryce his full platform. We'll be doing that on Monday night because Phil is traveling until Sunday. So we'll be live with Bryce this Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, now that we've hit the merge and now that we've had enough prop bets happen, I'll post the prop bet, prop bet standings, boot list. I don't really think I can yet because so many people still have the exact same score with that. So with that, vote for MVP. Subscribe to us on all of these social media platforms and tune in this Monday for us to talk to Bryce. And again, Robert, thank you so much for coming on.
Happy to be
Always
here.
a blast. Happy to have you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Mm-hmm.